Hello, Internet. It is I, the Malik Aaron, and welcome back to Box Office Predictions. Today, we're going to be talking about Inside Out 2. So, as usual, we're going to be going over the pros and cons. So, let's get to it. Pros. So, this is a Pixar movie. I know Pixar's track record, especially recently, has been very shaky, but it doesn't change the fact that they have a hell of a legacy. Okay, from 1995 to 2010, that is like widely considered to be like their golden age. Like they couldn't miss. Like they were allergic to missing. Even though Cars wasn't a terrible movie. It was just okay. Every other movie they made, banger. Every other movie's basically become a classic at this point. From Toy Story, The Bugs Life, Toy Story 2, Monsters Inc., Finding Nemo, The Incredibles, Ratatouille, Wall-E, Up, Toy Story 3. Incredible run of movies. Then things took a turn with Cars 2 in 2011, even though it wasn't good. I've never seen it, but from what I've heard, it's just not good. It made money at the end of the day, so it still was a success. Then you have stuff like Brave, Monsters University that were seen as like solid, not amazing. They made money. Inside Out, the original Inside Out, made money and was like highly acclaimed. We'll talk about that in more detail later. And Good Dinosaur, we're just gonna ignore that for now. Like Finding Dory, Cars 3, this box office really didn't matter. It was all about merchandise anyway. Like Finding Dory, Coco, Incredibles 2, Toy Story 4, all mega hits. So yeah, Pixar has a history of success. It hasn't been all sunshine and roses, and I will go over that in more detail when we get to the cons. But in the grand scheme of things, Pixar's track record is definitely a lot better than better than most animated studios, most studios in general, honestly. So, yeah, I say the Pixar name overall is a pro, although there are definitely some negatives to it that I'll go over later. All right, so pro number 2, the original Inside Out. This came, oh, clicked the wrong thing. Inside Out. This came out in 2015. And it came out in June of that year. It came out a week after Jurassic World, which I imagine like going into June, they're probably like, okay, Jurassic World's probably gonna do fine, and then we'll do great. And then Jurassic World had the biggest opening weekend of all time at that time, opening of 208 million, shocking everyone. And I imagine, Pixar is just like, well, there goes our number one streak. Because at this point, every single Pixar movie that came out was number one at the box office. Every single one. This broke that streak. And it wasn't even because Inside Out did bad. It was because it was up against a much bigger movie. But even in the shadow of Jurassic World, Inside Out did amazing. It opened with 90 million, which is still to this day the biggest opening ever for a movie that didn't open at number one. So yeah, 90 million. And it was only number 2 that weekend. It's amazing. And then it had really good legs. It made 356 million domestically, 850 million worldwide. Enormous success. And the movie was acclaimed by all people, saying, yes, this is like that classic Pixar. This is the Pixar everyone like fell in love with after like a string of movies that ranged from like good to not so good. Like this was like a return to form, as people would call it. So yeah, Inside Out definitely has a really good reputation. And when the sequel was announced, I know you expect me to like roll my eyes, but oh great, another Pixar sequel. But I didn't think it was a bad idea in like concept wise, because of the plot of Inside Out, the whole concept of emotions in your head. you could do a lot with that. You know, you can make like a sequel like Riley. You know, like I guess the main character, but all the emotions like anger, joy, fear, sadness, and disgust, all in her head. You can like make a sequel that happens like several years later. See how she matures and like new emotions and all that. Like it makes sense. It made sense to me. That's why I never really had a problem with the idea of an Inside Out 2. So I think the sequel for Inside Out, it's more justified than say a Cars 2. Because where do you go with Cars? Not you can't really do a whole lot with that. But Inside Out, you can do a lot with it. So yeah, but Inside Out, the original, incredible reputation, huge hit. So brand name recognition with that, that's a pro. Another pro is that direct competition. There's nothing until Despicable Me 4, and that's not until July. I mean, yes, there's Garfield. Yes, there's If, but those movies are weeks old. Like I imagine families they want to see something new, something arguably better than those movies. And I feel like this is probably going to be it. So yeah, and besides everything else, I mean, the only biggest movie that's out right now is Bad Boys Ride or Die, and that's very much going after a different audience. So yeah, there's no direct competition, which is only a good thing. There won't be any until Despicable Me 4. So that's a pro. Another pro is that reviews for this movie are quite good, very good actually. In fact, everything about this movie in terms of like reviews and wise is good. I mean, it has a 92% critic score, 96% audience score, and its cinema score is an A. So word of mouth overall is like fantastic. It's what it should be, ideally. So yeah, good critic score, audience score, cinema score, all really, really good. So that's an easy pro. Another pro is that its Thursday night previews shocked me, like legit shocked me. I never would have guessed Inside Out 2 would open like 13 million in previews. Like I thought it would make like I don't know 7, 8, 9 max, but double digit in previews. That's pretty significant, especially for like animated movies. I mean, that's the biggest preview this year. It beat Managed to beat Dune Part 2, which had like 12 million. Even then that like had like grosses from like I think like a weekend like prior that was like grouped in to that Thursday night. But Inside Out, as far as I know, that's just Thursday night previews. But I could be wrong. But I haven't heard like any like additional numbers come out with that. But yeah, 13 million. That's more than Toy Story 4. That was 12 million. And that opened with 120 million. So Inside Out 2, it's some good territory, really good territory. The only Pixar movie that did better was Incredibles 2, which had 18.5 million. So again, amazing territory. So yeah, like preview wise, it's incredible. So yeah, I'm gonna label that as a big old pro. Trying to think of any other pros. I think I labeled like all the positives. Okay, cons. I don't think these cons really matter anymore, but I have to like mention them because I would plan on mentioning them anyway. So with the original Inside Out, yes, like I know everyone loves it, but compared to like other like Pixar sequels, particularly say like like I'd say a Toy Story 3 or Toy Story 4 or Finding Dory or Incredibles 2. I was thinking, okay, like all those movies, their predecessors are seen as like absolute classics, like true undisputed classics. But Inside Out, I wasn't sure if it reached that classic status. I mean, it's technically an old movie, but it really isn't. It came out like 9 years ago, but I feel like movies really stopped feeling old or like looking old. They stopped really looking like that since like I don't know 2006 or so when like HD, like HD movies where the image is a lot crisper and cleaner looking. Like movies like stopped looking so like ancient and so even though Inside Out is technically an old movie, it really doesn't feel like an old movie or look like an old movie. I thought, but I wasn't sure if it reached that same level of like hype because Incredibles 2, my God, that movie was hyped. Like people foamed at the mouth over a teaser poster of just like the Incredibles logo with like a two. People went crazy over a poster, not even like a piece, not footage, not an image, a poster. Like that's how hyped that movie was. And Inside 2, obviously, it was never going to reach that level of hype. But even like Finding Dory, I mean, Finding Nemo is like, I looked it up. It's the best selling. It has the best selling DVD ever, like 40 million copies, which is like a lot. Like holy shit. But yeah, like Finding Nemo, Incredibles, and Toy Story, like those are like seen as like absolute like classic Pixar. But Inside Out, I wasn't too sure if it reached that level yet. So that was really not really a con, but it's more just like a something I thought was interesting. But a real con is what's been going on with Pixar these last few years. Oh boy, let's discuss that because I have a lot to say about that. Okay, so like 2019, yeah, Toy Story 4, a movie that really didn't need to happen, but it happened anyway. It was generally well liked. It made over $1 billion, so everything was going fine. Everything was going a okay. Then 2020 happened, and everything went wrong. Like seriously wrong. So you had Onward, which came out in March. Didn't have a great opening at all. Had a really weak opening, and then after that, COVID happened. Its box office died. Every movie's box office died, and it went like to Disney Plus real quick. And then things only got worse because Soul, Luca, and Turning Red. I know I mentioned this many times, but I'm going to say it again. All three of those movies were all screwed over and were all dumped on the Disney Plus. They didn't get proper theatrical releases until like this year. Like they were basically just dumped on Disney Plus to like boost subscriber numbers, pretty much. And I felt like it did a lot of damage to like the Pixar brand by doing that because it makes you feel like, well, what's the point of watching a Pixar movie in theaters when I can just watch it on Disney Plus? And that's a serious issue. And that's I say partially, the reason why Lightyear, which was Pixar's first theatrical film since Toy Story 4, I guess Onward technically, but Onward had a very short life in theaters. Why Lightyear did as bad as it did. Obviously, Lightyear had so many issues it was dealing with, but Lightyear, an absolute disaster, box office wise. It opened like 50 million. Had a very front loaded run, only made like 118 million, made 218 million on a budget of like 200 million. Oof, big yikes. And with Elemental, it was looking like it was going to be another disaster. Opened with 29.6. That's the worst opening ever for a Pixar movie, I believe. Actually, no, second worst. But in terms of like ticket sale, it's definitely the worst. So it was looking like another enormous disaster, but it managed to save itself. Made like 154 million, made like less than 500 million worldwide. So it's not an embarrassment, but I wouldn't call it an overwhelming hit either. It's one of those situations where it's not great, but it could have been a whole lot worse. But even before, like, COVID and all that, Pixar, I mean, like, Good Dinosaur, that was their first real flop. And that was a movie that had a lot of issues, a lot of production issues. It was a mess. It was the type of movie you just want to release and then never think about ever again and just move on quickly. Yeah, Good Dinosaur was a big old flop for them. And Cars 3 didn't do too hot either, like at all. But again, merchandise was the real moneymaker. So it didn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Yeah, the last few years, Pixar, it's been bad. And I was thinking, okay, Inside Out 2 might be affected by this. But as I look at the current box office numbers, it's very much not affected by this. But it's something I have to mention because it's a serious problem. And I feel like it's only gotten worse. Especially, I'm pretty sure you've all heard of like a recent interview. I think it was like Pete Docter. He had like an interview, and boy, it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Where basically he was like, "Okay, we're gonna make more sequels because that's what we all want, more Pixar sequels because we clearly don't have enough. We got to make more. Toy Story 5, Incredibles 3, Finding Door Nemo 3." And people were just like, "Ugh, come on." Like nobody was excited about that. And it just, I don't know, it just feels like the old Pixar was just dying off. It's just gonna become like a sequel factory, and no one was on board with that. But I guess with Inside Out 2's box office, I guess maybe his words are somewhat justified. I mean, the numbers don't lie. So, I wish Pixar didn't. I wish Pixar. I really don't want them to become just a sequel factory. I mean, you can have sequels here and there, but you can't just have only sequels. Like people want like original stuff. But if Inside Out 2, if the way it's going, maybe this will only like justify their decision to make more sequels, which would suck, but it is what it is. But yeah, Pixar as a brand, it's not been doing great the last few years, so that's a con, definitely. Another con, I guess Disney as a whole, it's been bad, real bad. Last year was awful. Last year was their 100th anniversary, and it was like probably one of the worst years of all time. They only had like what, one, really one hit, two if you really want to stretch with Elemental. The one real hit was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Everything else was a flop to some extent. Ant-Man 3, Little Mermaid, Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny, Haunted Mansion. And then you had the double whammy in November. You had The Marvels and you had Wish, both completely embarrassing themselves. And yeah, last year was a bloodbath for the House of Mouse. And this year, I believe this is their first movie they released with, like, I guess the proper Disney branding attached to it. I know there was Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, but did you see the Disney logo on that thing? Because I sure didn't. This is the first movie that really had like the actual like Disney logo on it. So so obviously Disney is in a hell of a slump, and that's obviously not gonna be good for like their future movies. So I gotta label that as a con. Trying to think of some other cons. I guess I could go deeper into the fact that the Pixar sequel problem, how they've made, it feels like they're making like too many sequels, and these sequels are considered like very much inferior to their predecessors. I mean, Incredibles 2 is a really good example of that because the first Incredibles is a masterpiece in my eyes. It's probably one of my favorite movies of all. I think it is my favorite Pixar movie out of all of them. But Incredibles 2, people were so excited for it, then they watched it and was like, oh. Like initially people were like, yeah, like all pumped, but as time progressed, people realized that movie really wasn't that good. Like its reputation has really like taken a dip in recent years. And I guess the same is applied to like other like Pixar sequels. And people are just like really just like tired of like constant sequels. People just were just kind of over it. And when like Toy Story 5 was announced, man, no one gave a damn. People were just like, why? Why? Stop. No one wants this. No one needs this. Toy Story 4 was already a stretch. Like, that was a real stretch. But Toy Story 5 is just overkill. And when it comes to me, I could literally give less of a shit about Toy Story 5. I could give less of a shit about Incredibles 3. I don't feel the hype. And you know what's hilarious? I think one of the people, but like with, I think it was either Disney or Pixar. She did like this interview, and she told like her teenage like kid this like, oh hey, we're making an Incredibles 3, and her kid was literally just like money grab. That's actually what the kid said, and I thought that was just amazing. I'm like, this kid knows what's up, okay? Like he knows like how much of a cash grab, these movies, how cash grabby these movies are. Like, he's being real, and I respect that a lot. Because he could have easily just been, oh yeah, mom, that's great. But no, he was very honest. And yeah, but imagine that's how a lot of people feel about these Pixar sequels. So just Pixar sequel, just the negative stigma of being a Pixar sequel, gonna label that as a con. Although it's not gonna do anything to its box office, as I've been seeing. But I think that's all the real cons I got. I think that's it. Okay, so opening weekend. Originally, the tracking said like 80 so million, and I'm like, I guess that's fine. 80 million. Probably like a little less than the last Inside Out 1. But even at 80 million, if it opened with that would be a whole lot better than Elemental and Lightyear. Hell, it would be better than both of those movies combined. But recent numbers have shown me that this movie is going to hit triple digits. Something that hasn't happened all year. Something that hasn't happened since Barbie last year. It has really been that long since we've had 100 million plus opening. And I really thought it was going to be Deadpool and Wolverine. I thought that would be the movie to do it, but Inside Out to beat it to the punch. So it's looking like this movie's gonna open with like 120 to 130 million. It might spike even higher. Who knows? The sky's the limit at this point. Um, I'm gonna go with like 130, judging by the multipliers of like Incredibles 2 and Toy Story 4, but like 10 from like previews to opening weekend. So if we do the same math, this will make like 130 million opening weekend, which would be swell. It would be a godsend considering how shit 2024 has been so far. It would be like the adrenaline boost that 2024 desperately needs. So yeah, 130 million opening weekend, and its legs should be solid. So I'm gonna say 400 million plus, 400 to 450. That's what I'm gonna go with. And yeah, that's it for the. Well, yes, that's it for Inside Out 2. I thought I would only talk about Inside Out 2. I thought that for the longest time. I really did. But no, no. Instead, I am stuck with another movie that no one gives a good goddamn about. That movie is a treasure. And I don't know, Tuesday, that doesn't have like a theater count, so I don't. Like, I can like check, but I don't think I'm gonna get anywhere with that. Let me see really fast. I guess I can mention like Inside Out 2 is like in a whole bunch of theaters, like 4,000, like 440 theaters, which is a lot, a whole lot. But high theater count, sometimes it doesn't really do anything. It's just, I don't think it's like that. It's only like important if you have like no theaters. But yeah, I guess I can do Treasure, but I can't really do Tuesday, so I'm just gonna ignore Tuesday. But yeah, that's what the weekend is looking like. So stay tuned for the Treasure video. But yeah, so that's it. That's all. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, leave a comment, turn on notifications, share the whole drill. want to check out more videos like this, got playlists on the homepage, all previous prediction videos I made on the channel, all types, all the movies I've done this year. You want to watch any of those, go right ahead. And I forgot to mention, like, with my prediction videos for like Soul, Luca, and Turning Red, though how those did like so bad. I was thinking that could be like an omen for Inside Out 2, but obviously that was completely false. um so yeah, I wanted to mention that real quick. Let's see. The canceled series, where I go over all the movies that were supposed to come out but didn't. I've covered Inside Out 2 one time. That's when it was announced for 2024. I forgot which episode it was. Let me see. It was episode 152. Yeah, I talked about Inside Out 2 alongside Elio and Wish. And the thing is, like, Elio, that was supposed to, if things didn't go the way they did last year with the strikes, that would have came out already. That would have came out in March. But instead it got like delayed all the way to like next year, like next June, which I always thought was really weird. I didn't think it was that necessary to delay it that much unless that movie's going through some serious issues that we just don't know about. Um, but yeah, so that was like the one and only time I talked about Inside Out 2. So yeah, so that was the one time. So I made 248 episodes of Canceled. I have 2 more to do until I'm ready to just retire the series. I'm gonna make those episodes count. So there might be a bit of a wait before I make them. So yes, I guess stay tuned for the final 2 Cancel episodes. But if you want to watch any of the past Cancel episodes, you want to watch them all from beginning to now, you want to binge them all from beginning to now, I highly encourage you to do that. So go do it. There's also box office recaps where I go over the box office results for any particular month. I know I said I was going to do my May recap this week. I'm going to do it on tomorrow. Well, technically today, Saturday. Okay, that's the plan. I wanted to do it like Friday night, but it got real late, and that video would probably take me like about an hour to do, and it would take like a whole lot of time for it to like upload. I have to do everything. It would just been a long time, be a mess. So I'm just gonna just do it on Saturday, properly on Saturday, and then upload it and publish it then. So that's the plan. So yeah, stay tuned for that video. But yeah, but if you want to watch any of the past recap videos I made on the channel, you can go right ahead. And yeah, so that's it. That's all. I am out. Good. I am out. Goodbye.